Here we are. You got Lawrence Wagner. Momentarily, we'll be joined by Amber Bonds. And Amber, are y'all here? Looks like y'all got to turn your camera on and your audio on. And we will get to chat about farming and cooking.
Hey, Amber.
If I was Amber, I'd look prettier.
Well, Amber is really aged or something. I don't know what's going on.
She's getting a little scruffy.
New hairdo. Hey, look, the COVID hair is a real thing. I'm my own barber, so.
Right, I agree. Been doing the same thing.
I don't know what Lawrence is doing.
I hadn't done anything. I'll another week or two. I'll have to take matters into my own hands.
You got some good fluff going on.
Yeah, it's actually compressed right now. You should see me wake up.
Then my name would probably be Amber.
Yeah.
How y'all doing? Here's Amber. Actually, she's much prettier than I am.
There we go. We're glad y'all could join us from Montgomery, Alabama. We got Sumner, Mississippi represented, and we're really excited to be launching the Find Family Farms platform and helping people find people like Lawrence Wagner out there growing rice.
Thank you.
So Lawrence, while they're getting set up, go ahead and tell us what's happening on the farm right now. Like, you got seeds in the ground. Like, what's happening?
Nothing's happening right now, really. It's kind of a joke, but we have had a lot of rain recently. We've been able to plant about almost 300 acres of rice and about 100 acres of beans, which is not really where we want to be right now. But, as far as last year goes, we didn't get everything planted till late May. So kind of becoming the new normal.
Gotcha. So when do you think the rest of your rice will hit the ground?
There's absolutely no telling. The way this year's going, there is no telling. Hopefully it'll dry up next week and we can get in there. As soon as temperatures warm up, we may be able to fly a lot of our rice in. But Mother Nature is the boss.
All right, so we're going to start, we're going to kind of bounce back and forth between talking about farming and talking about ingredients. And kind of this is where both of those things come together. And as folks, if you're watching the live, you can, hey, Richard, how are you, sir? If somebody's on the live, they can share a little bit about some of their rice questions. If you got a rice question, how to cook it, what different kinds of rice you want to cook, play with. We can get all those answered tonight because we've got the experts. All right, so Eric Rivera, go ahead and introduce everybody there in the room because I see another shadowy figure back there.
Right. Well, I'm Eric Rivera. I'm the exec chef at Vintage Cafe here in Montgomery, and I've got both my sous chefs here, Brian Morrison for Vintage Year and Amber Bonds for Vintage Cafe, and we make up the dynamic trio here in Montgomery, and we love to use as much local products as we can and much southern products as we possibly can, and continue to expand that. So, we're loving this opportunity to be able to connect with additional farmers and use the products. And I will say we've used a lot of Lawrence's rice as of recent, for sure. Recently, so it's been great. Yeah.
All right, so Eric, I'm gonna put you on the spot. I need 3 jasmine rice dishes right now. 20 seconds.
3
jasmine.
This is our owner, Jed Blunt, looking at us on the window, so there's no pressure right now.
Facebook, this is recorded. You're fine.
Gosh, you're really putting me on the spot.
Yeah,
Hoppin' Johns is something we did tonight. We could definitely use jasmine rice and Hoppin' Johns. We also do, etouffee. We did some jasmine rice and some etouffee. And then as well as, we got something coming up this week. We're gonna be using some coconut milk, cooking some jasmine rice and some coconut milk. Is also a great way to use it. Coconut curry, absolutely fantastic. So the applications are pretty much endless, on all these rices. We've used the sable rice and the scarlet rice. Scarlet rice we used in some rice pilaf and some succotash. The sable rice, we like to cook that with some mirin, and it gives it just really great texture. The starches come out really well, and a little bit of sweetness, salt, mirin. It's fantastic. So we've
Lawrence,
got some great applications.
So Lawrence, when you talk about when they're talking about red rice and the sable and the black rice, talk about the different rice varieties you guys have, because I know it's not just one thing you're growing. You've got how many different varieties of rice out there?
We've got 5 right now. We've got a very fine long grain, which we call Delta Bell. Its brown partner is called Beulah Land Tan or Beulah Land Medley. That has the red mixed in with it. We grow American Basmati we call Miss Amati, white and brown. We also grow a jasmine rice we call Blue Jasmine. We also grow the black and the red rice, which we call Sable and Scarlet, respectively. As far you asking about rice dishes or jasmine recipes, you can really interchange any of those 3 white rices or brown, but that's just all up to your preference, really, as to whether you like a stickier rice or a more firm.
Yeah, the black has, we found that has such good starch content to it that, we're able to almost get, that sushi rice / just almost risotto texture, but we just like to add a little more sweetness to it with that black rice. It's, with the shorter grain on it. We found that works really well, especially when we're doing any sort of Asian inspired dishes. We love to use that.
Absolutely. Forbidden rice.
Brian, yeah, right. Brian was saying, the floral notes on the scarlet are great. I mean, it's just, you got so much more flavor in that scarlet rice that really enhances succotash, and it's not just the starch at that point. Yeah, it's more than just the starch. Yeah.
Okay. Really appreciate what the rice brings to the table or the plate itself.
Yeah.
They call it a palate, and it's certainly that.
Yeah.
A lot of different flavors. I don't think I knew the intricacies of rice and even the varieties that you really could have until I started working with you guys. Does anybody have any rice bags in front of them? Lawrence, you're right there in the office. You got a bag of scarlet or anything you can show us?
Yeah. Let me run up front real quick.
Okay, there you go. Lawrence is going to show us some of the products. All right, so Amber, while they're gone, while he's gone, have you cooked any rice grits?
Yes,
yeah, we have.
We used to like to use those Midlands. We've used the Midlands at both restaurants, for sure. Rice grits.
So what sorts of things do y'all make when you're doing rice grits?
What was that?
Well, one thing that I really like, one of my favorite applications of that is actually taking some sweet corn and making like a corn cream and mixing it with that, and you make it's almost like a porridge, but it's absolutely fantastic to use those flavors with the rice, and essentially kind of like making like a creamed rice. It's absolutely fantastic.
Cream corn, but with rice.
Yeah,
I mean with corn and rice.
Yeah, with corn and rice, and it just creates a really great just texture, and it's almost like a juxtaposition using both of those together. Now, that's Brian Trammell. That's our general manager. Essentially, our village year.
The head of the whole internet, buddy.
He needs to get in the safe, I think.
This is the chef's office.
Yeah, this is the chef's office, and he continues to keep it safe in here for some reason. I don't know if y'all can see this shenanigans going on down here.
Yeah.
It's just the money.
Don't tell everybody where the safe is. That's gonna, we don't have liability to cover that. So
we don't get the code, but we at least get to protect the safe.
No, I mean, essentially like rice grits. You can use rice grits for anything you would use polenta for. Honestly, like you could do ossobuco, or, I mean, we're in the South. We put pretty much everything on grits, or rice grits even.
there we go. So have y'all done?
Sorry, I'm trying to show off the rice grits, but I really don't know how the camera system works. I think I have to talk for it to screen me. So
I can see it.
That is rice grits. As far compared to corn grits, they don't have the same, I guess, initial flavor. Corn grits have a little bit more flavor, but the rice grits, the Midlands, they absorb flavors a lot more readily. So they can kind of take on any dish you want and enhance it. My favorite is just shrimp and grits with it.
Shrimp and grits. There you go. And I've cooked the grits with lots of cream and butter and just made, ridiculous, just straight up as if I'm doing corn grits, but just salty, buttery, creamy. Put some cheese in there. Cream.
Yes.
You can put cream cheese, all that sort of thing in there too. It's amazing. Because I feel like the palate. The canvas. I feel like rice is often like a canvas because you can go a lot of different ways. And take it. You can soak up flavors. You can do lots of different things. Lawrence, on your farm right now, are y'all shipping out a lot of rice? Y'all staying busy?
A lot of our business was focused around restaurants, so that has dropped off a lot. On the other hand, we hadn't focused as much on retail and on our online sales, which has picked up rather drastically. Not enough to cover restaurant sales, but they've picked up a lot. So that's good to see, and hopefully we can hang on to that once all this blows over.
Yeah. So Richard on Facebook asks, do you have any rice with a nice nutty wild flavor?
Yeah. Any of the brown rices will have a nutty brown flavor. But a lot of people, they know what that tastes like. If you're looking for something a little different, I would go with the scarlet or the sable, or a mixture of the brown and the red, which we call Beulah Land Medley. They all have a little bit different, I guess, taste or textures. The red rice goes better with, I guess, if you're cooking with meats, a rich meat, pork, something like that, deer, venison. The black, like y'all said, is very good for some Chinese dishes. And the brown is just your staple brown rice that you can use in many different ways.
Yeah, that's that brown rice has a lot of flavor. So talk about there's this thing called amylose content, Lawrence, and I've heard you talk about it. I've heard your dad talk about it. Mike talk about it. Explain what that is and how that affects the rice and the person eating it.
Okay, so your amylose has to do with your glucose content and your glycemic index. So to a lot of people, this doesn't quite matter, but somebody with diabetes and health conditions, the brown rice or really the black rice will be the healthiest thing you can eat as far as amylose content. What that means is it's going to break down in your bloodstream those sugars a lot less slowly and gradual. So you get more out of it instead of it just being absorbed right off the bat like a white rice.
Interesting.
So higher amylose content will lead to a lower glycemic index, which is what a lot of people who are becoming more health conscious are looking for.
And we actually tell a lot of our servers to let people know that the black rice is healthier, and it is a little bit more of a powerhouse food than your white rice, your bleached white rice, or anything like that. That you're just getting a lot more benefits out of it overall, and that's in the restaurant environment to be able to sell it that way is great as well. I think we find it as a benefit more so than anything, because we had black rice on the menu before, and something we're going to continue to use and feature, and not just because it's cool, it's different, you don't get to see it a lot, but it is a healthier product for you, and it is overall more nutrient rich.
the black rice, the main draw point to that would be the anthocyanin content or antioxidants. About roughly a spoonful of black rice bran, which I'm guessing would kind of translate to a half a cup of black rice, maybe a cup. Anyway, it's got the same anthocyanin content as a blueberry or a cupful of blueberries, which anyway, a lot of people.
Yeah, a lot of people talk about blueberries being a superfood, and you're talking about a grain that has that same kind of content. I love the way it can, whatever you put black rice on, it that color just goes everywhere, and you know, you can turn vegetables purple basically when you cook them in with that black rice, which is one of my favorite things to do.
You know, we've always wanted to I guess blend all three, and we have tried and we've cooked it, and the purple rice turns everything purple. So, you know, it looks real pretty in the bag, but it all winds up purple.
I've made that mistake. Yeah. I've made that mistake of, oh, we're gonna mix up these rices, and then everything's purple. I'm like, how am I gonna get out of this?
The trick is to cook the purple rice separately.
Yep. I found that out after the fact a while back. Another, you know, Andy, there's another really cool thing that we do. We like to do sometimes when we're making sauces or using rice as a thickener. It has been great. Not only for the nutrients, but you can use black rice and in making cream sauces and thickening them, or even white rice if you're making a real nice, pretty clear, not clear, but really bright white sauce, and using that as a thickener instead of cream, or using in place of dairy, using rice as the thickener. Overcooked rice has worked out really well for us. A little bit healthier for those people who don't, you know, are lactose intolerant, or trying to limit their dairy intake. Using rice in that method as well has been great. It adds a little bit more body to it, but really helps out when we're trying to do sauces for people that don't have that dairy content to it. So I just want to throw that out there for the listeners and everybody. You know, it's a cool technique that we use in the restaurant industry, and just want to share that as well.
Yeah. So explain what, like, for somebody who's they're trying to make a sauce. Like, I've made a soup, right? And you put your chicken and whatever in the soup, and then about 3/4 of the way in, I'll throw a cup of rice in, and it kind of gets, what you mentioned was like, well, it's overcooked because it's super watery. You're never going to cook all the moisture out. So it's that. But when you say you're putting it in a sauce, like, take me all the way through what that means.
If you're trying to make like a velouté, and you're using, you know, which is going to be a stock-based cream sauce, and you're using a stock to start off with, and you're able to take that and incorporate, you know, your garlic, your shallots, take your stock, you know, cook those down, or even onions, like sauce sous vide, using an onion-based sauce, you know, where you're overcooking the onions and cooking those down, and you can take some very overcooked rice, so there's really not much texture left to it, and, you know, whether it's your stock or your onions, and put those in a blender with the rice, and use that starch content to really help give you that creaminess. That's how we use it most often, is whether it's replacing the cream in a velouté, or doing it in, like, again, a sauce sous vide or something like that, where we're taking onions, caramelizing them down, and keeping them very translucent. Then we'll add the overcooked rice. We're going to puree it up. It creates a really nice starchy, very gives a good sweetness to it as well. But so it's using that in place of cream for those sauces to serve with, whether it's scallops,
right.
Scallops, we use it on fish. I'm trying to think if we really haven't used it too much on meat applications, but mostly on your seafood applications is where we've used it, or with other vegetables as well.
So that's an interesting thing, because we've all used cornstarch to thicken things.
Yeah.
But you're basically making rice wet and then pureeing it. So it's essentially the same process. I mean, the same end result, but using a different grain.
Exactly. And, you know, you strain it through a strainer and to get out any particles. And if you haven't quite got it cooked all the way down, and then you can continue to cook it and reduce it, and it's very silky, and not only the texture but the appearance of it as well. It really makes a beautiful sauce. Yeah, it's very glossy. I think rice has just that great starch content that helps bind it together as well. So yeah.
Folks were asking if you could do that with an immersion blender. I bet you could probably.
It's better with a blender. I mean, you probably could. You may have to strain it a little bit more and make sure that rice is very, very overcooked. But a blender is your best bet. When we're doing that, we personally use a blender all the time for that. So.
Do y'all ever take rice and Lawrence, you chime in too, because I know you've cooked rice about as many different ways as anybody now. Between you, Mike, and Abby, y'all probably have a whole plethora of rice recipes that the French Laundry couldn't even figure out. But do y'all ever toast rice in butter in the skillet and then add stuff to it from there, or do y'all always go water first?
I always go watered first because I'm not skilled, and I will burn my rice, etc. And yeah, I'm not a skilled chef.
The short grain, the black sable, we toast that more often than not. The other rices,
really?
we're really the kind of same boat with the other rices. Water, rice, cook it. It's the best way. I don't know that you get too much more out of it. The short grain rices that take a little longer to cook, I think they benefit a little bit more from it. Just like when you're making arborio rice or risotto, you want to toast it just a little bit. So we feel that the black rice takes on a little bit more nuttiness, a little bit depth, a little bit more of a depth of tone, or tone. I said that wrong, but a little more depth with that if you toast it. So that, I mean, I would agree with that though. Most of the other ones we just pretty much water, salt, and cook them up.
There you go. See, I did the here he comes again.
Here he comes. That guy.
I mean, does he not know? Hey, so I've done, and I'm not as trained as you fellas, but so I've taken butter, toasted the basmati a little bit, and then put in vegetables like bell peppers, onions, celery, and ladled in water and cooked it instead of measuring exactly, 2 to 1, 3 to 1, put a lid on it. And I don't know, that's just for your ADD self, it keeps you, there's always something to stir and move around as opposed to just setting it and then walking away and getting distracted. But I don't know if anybody else has ever overcooked rice, but I've got that the corner on that market. You just get distracted, you leave it going, and you could smell it before you see it.
Yep, been there.
Have you ever done that for a big event, Lawrence? You got a bunch of rice you're supposed to sample out, and your pot runs short on water?
No, I'm on point at those big events.
You've got to be.
That's right.
Do you use rice cookers, Lawrence, or are you?
I've actually used my first rice cooker maybe 2 months ago because somebody called the office and asked how to cook our rice in a rice cooker, and I had absolutely no idea.
I think they come with directions. There's a cup. You put 1 cup in.
Yeah. Anyway, I've figured it out since, but yeah, I've never used a rice cooker before then. That
is funny. Well, I've done a bunch of rice cooker rice, but I don't know I feel like it loses the mystery, but it does come out fluffy every time, and it's hard to screw it up. Which
it's pretty accurate. I don't know why I put it off for so long, but I love it.
If it's almost too easy, sometimes I'm like, well, I can't screw that up. Where's the challenge? I mean, cold cuts you pull them out, you put them in between the sandwich. But with ribeye, you pull a ribeye out, there's the chance that you cook it too much if you get distracted there at the end, or maybe in our case, a lot of times the meat's frozen, and so you have to thaw it out all the way through before you cook it, or you think it's like going to be medium rare and you serve it, and Mariana's like, that one needs to go visit the pan again or the grill again. So if there's a chance you can screw it up, I prefer the mystery and the excitement of that as opposed to just the sure thing. I guess I would probably not be a good sous chef for you, Eric.
Yeah.
You keep connecting chefs and farmers.
So what?
That you keep connecting chefs and farmers.
I'll come work a shift once all this gets over. We'll see what y'all are up to over there. All right, so rice for dessert, other than rice pudding.
The Krispies.
Go ahead.
Talk to me, Goose. What are we saying about Krispies?
You know Krispies. I don't know anything about Krispies.
So basically the same thing that we were talking about, making a rice puree. You overcook the rice, you make a puree out of it, strain it, and then you lay it make very, very thin sheets of it using parchment paper and whatnot, and break those up. They're basically like just super, super thin chips, or was it something close to rice paper but crispy. And you give them a quick fry, they puff up, crisp up, and they'll take on any kind of flavor you'd want. So if you're trying to add some texture to a dessert, that'd be a great option as well. Kind of like you see these cages and all these different things done with caramels and chocolates and things like that. But that would be my first idea to use rice in a dessert outside of rice pudding.
So take a novice through this. So you take your rice, you cook it.
You overcook it. Way overcook it. You know.
Which is lots of extra water, longer time. It's real fluffy at that, like falling apart fluffy, right?
Yep. And you're gonna want to add a little bit of water to it so that you can puree it, so it will move in the food processor. And once you get it pureed super smooth, you lay it out, and you can just kind of crack it apart. And once you have those little chips, you fry them for about 10 seconds at 400 degrees, and they puff up, and they're just nice, perfect little rice puffs. They'll take on whatever flavor you want them to take on, just like you were saying. With grits and rice grits and all these other things, they'll take on the flavor that you want them to take on. So whenever you're pureeing them, if you need a specific flavor, you just add that to that at that point, maybe some vanilla or something like that, and then puff them up.
Yeah, it's just all, and you have to have some patience with that, with the baking of that. You're kind of essentially almost dehydrating the rice puree at that point, and then you're frying it up. That's it just takes some time.
So has anybody made Rice Krispie treats?
One thing, this is kind of weird. Rice? No.
What's that?
Rice Krispie treats?
Like Rice Krispie treats, like the cereal. Rice Krispies. And,
cereal, yeah.
I mean, how hard is that? Is that something you got to have special equipment for? Or?
You may have to go to the factory to find that one out.
y'all had cracked that one.
Cook it and then fry it or something.
Yeah,
I would consider what is the one mixing drink?
Is it? Are they made of rice?
I would consider that dessert. That's sweet.
Yeah, Amber had a good, horchata is made with rice as well.
Yeah, I would consider that a dessert because it's just usually so sweet.
It's a drink. It's essentially pureed, chilled rice milk with vanilla, sugar, and alcohol. I mean, that's horchata
pretty good.
Are great. I was, when I was real young, my mom used to take rice, put a tab of butter, put a little bit of white sugar on top of it, and mix it all up. And I loved it as a dessert. It was just a very simple, it wasn't necessarily rice pudding, but it was just a sweetened rice. And sometimes you put other, little bit of cinnamon or something else on it. And it's just a very simple, something sweet to eat and snack on. And without necessarily being that pudding texture. I don't know where she got it from, but she ate it growing up in Eastern Colorado, and I don't know. I grew up eating that as well, so that's another little simple dessert.
Yeah.
As far as desserts go, on our website, twobrooksfarm.com, we've got 18 different dessert recipes using rice. All we've got breakfast, appetizers, main dishes, side dishes, and desserts on there. All this was created whenever my father was, I guess, he wanted to put together a catalog of recipes to help everybody learn how to use it. Granted, some of the recipes are pretty tough and hard to follow. They're very good. As far as desserts go, my favorite is the peaches and cream rice grits, and I actually had that during a food show with the Peach Truck. If y'all are familiar with them.
Oh, man.
Anyway,
so you did it right there. I mean, you can't get much better peaches than those guys.
absolutely.
They're by the way, they're on finefamilyfarms.com as well, and they are telling me peach season will be rolling, I think, in early June. So I could be wrong, but I think they'll be shipping out and doing that by early June. All right, so I got 3 chefs down here in the bottom of my screen. I'm not sure where they sit on the live feed, but I want to get 3 recipes each for the home cook. Just if they buy a bag of Two Brooks rice, whether it's basmati, jasmine, whatever, something simple, no crazy French words, and I don't need a whole like textbook to make this. What's an idiot proof 3 recipes? I'm gonna start with you, Amber, since they hadn't let you talk much. She's like, yes.
I'll take this back to Lawrence. Do you remember when I got some sable rice flour from you?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is not foolproof, and I've tried it many different times, but it is not good for bread. Let's just say it is good for baking. It's not good for bread. So rice flour a lot of the times is used for baking because it's a very delicate flour, and a lot of people use it as a gluten-free like cake recipe or brownie recipe or whatever, what have you. So if people will just Google rice flour gluten-free cake recipe, it'll instantly pop up, and it's very easy. And all you do is you take a white rice basically and grind it down in your food processor, and you can make a cake with it. And it's a lot healthier than AP flour or anything else out there that you will use. And I don't have a recipe on me because I'm still working on mine because I'm going to make it work. But that's my recipe for you. That's my only one recipe, and there's 2 other chefs, so you have 2 other recipes.
As far as rice flour goes, we have a recipe on the website for chocolate chip cookies that I think may have been the best I've ever had before.
Nice.
We've had Lawrence and Abby's chocolate chip cookies many times at events, and they're incredible way to use rice flour. And we just did a recipe that I need to get on our website with waffles and using the Beulah-Lantan rice flour, which I saw is sold out right now, Lawrence, but maybe that'll be back in stock pretty soon.
We actually have been milling a lot of Beulah-Lantan for I'm really not sure the specifics, but it's going to charity through Feed America or something like that. But we have milled. It's a friend of ours that wanted to buy all this rice from us to donate to charity. Anyway, point being, we have a lot of brokens, so we will be swimming in brown rice flour.
There you go. Because that's my favorite flour to do, like the rice flour waffles, is that Beulah-Lantan, because it gets crispy, and with a wheat waffle, it's got that real pliable like pull, but the rice flour waffles just get crispy and hold up. What's up, man? He's like, what are y'all doing in there? He's wondering what y'all are up to that he's not getting to be part of. All right, so Brian.
Well, I'm just gonna state the obvious because I was working on it today. But if you know how to make poppy seed chicken, it's a great way to use some rice.
Yeah.
But another thing that I did the other day at the house, and doesn't require a recipe. We had some stir fry. We got a little bit of tuna from our local fish market. But I just took some basmati rice and got it up to the consistency that I wanted it. And if you go to your Asian market or whatever market you have that has access to some of these things, furikake spice is a seaweed sesame blend type, kind of like a rice seasoning spice. And if you add that, a little bit of sesame oil, soy sauce and mirin, veggies, and whatever protein you want, it's really gonna enhance your rice exponentially. It's really going to kind of bring out more of those floral notes and really kind of bring everything back together. So that would be one of my go-tos that doesn't need a recipe. You just need a couple of key ingredients.
There you go. All right, Mr. Vintage.
I think people, I'm going to do something with the black sable rice because I think people get maybe a little hesitant to try something new with the black rice. But, speaking back on desserts, if you take that black rice, the sable rice, and you cook it and essentially overcook it. And so for all of you who always overcook everything, cook it up and add a little bit of coconut milk to it, or if you want to use regular cow milk or goat milk or any other type of almond milk would be great. Some great nuttiness with it, and just add a touch of sweetness, whether it's sugar or agave nectar, and make yourself a nice little bit of essentially almost like a dessert rice porridge. I think that would be something absolutely fantastic, and just to kind of get the flavor and the texture. It's one of those rices you can stand there if you have some OCD tendencies and stir it the entire time, create a little more starchiness to it. But you can also leave it alone and just let it cook. And then again, add a little bit of coconut milk to it to enhance the flavor, a pinch of salt, some sugar, and you've got a great little dessert right there. Even putting some fresh berries on that, some acidity to cut through all that starch, absolutely fantastic. Throw some strawberries on there. You're going to get great contrast of color and also flavors. The strawberries will cut through, the acid will cut through a lot of the creaminess of that rice and all that starch. But absolutely fantastic dessert, I would say.
So whenever you're talking about overcooking rice, are you talking about like burning it to the bottom of your pan or
No. Make sure you always keep enough liquid in there. You just want it to be soft. You don't want it to have any al dente, no crunch to it whatsoever. You just want it to be nice and soft, but you don't want it to boil down into a puree or burn on the bottom. The only time I think you should really get rice really crispy is if you're doing some paella. Brian loves to do it. He likes to get that nice crispness, the saccharat on the paella.
That is excellent.
Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yes.
Yeah, Mike does a very mean paella.
Amazing.
He adopted it in Mexico and has cooked it at about every event we do. Anytime he can cook it, he will cook it, and it is amazing. He'll cook it we generally have our chef camp kind of during the fall, and we make a giant pot of it or pan of it, and myself and everybody else will eat it on the tractor for about a week.
This pan is like 3 foot over an open fire. I think Amber helped tend it last fall when we did that, and got to experience a real culinary treat firsthand. We usually throw some of that Simmons catfish on there at the end and cook it down. But that is fantastic. Well, look, I know you guys are all working and busy folks, and I appreciate everybody sharing a lot of different parts of knowledge and hanging out with us a little bit tonight. If you're watching and you're hungry near Montgomery, Alabama, now or in the future, you definitely want to go see this